Well, welcome everybody. If you could take a seat, please. We're about to start. Thank you.
God on high, hear my prayer. In my need, you have always been there. He is young, he's afraid. Let him rest, heaven blessed. Bring him home, bring him home, bring him home. He's like the son I might have known if God had granted me a son. The summers die one by one, how soon they fly on and on, and I am old and will be gone. Bring him peace, bring him joy. He is young, he is only a boy. You can take, you can give. Let him be, let him live. If I die, let me die. Let him live. Bring him home. Bring him home. Bring him
Good afternoon and welcome here to Christchurch. I'm Ryan and I'll be leading us as we spend some time together remembering and celebrating Josh. I'm part of the church family here at Christchurch, and I've known Chris and Liz for many years. They're good friends, and I first met Josh when he must have been about 3 or 4 years old, I think, when Sally and I first started coming to the church. And I saw him grow up from a small child, a big child, into an amazing young man. And this place is where he spent quite a lot of time in his childhood. He was born in December, 8th of December. And he was the first real baby Jesus in the Nativity. And he was just a couple of weeks old. Later in life, he got to play the grumpy innkeeper, and I'm sure you can all imagine his face. And in his Thanksgiving service, 4 months old, I think he said, Chris and Lizzie said they remember him. He was big enough and strong enough then to stand next to his older brothers at 4 months old, holding on. Josh, always doing things before he should, before other people were ready. As I was speaking to Chris and Liz a few weeks ago, I just shared my strongest memory is of Josh at the sound desk, there at the back. And if I was leading or playing music, I'd often walk to the back of church at the end of a service, and even if I'd messed up or things hadn't gone to plan, Josh would always be there, just with a smile and a sense of calm. He was a calm presence, even when he was a teenager. So we gather in a space where Josh grew up to give thanks to God for the gift of him to us all. It's a time to share precious memories, thoughts and stories, songs, and from the films that Josh loved. To remember and celebrate the earthly life of a son, of a brother, of a friend, a companion, a man who always leaves a giant but gentle impression on those who meet him. A wise woman called St. Clare suggested that we become what we love, and who we love shapes what we become. And today, in a way, I think many of us will find ourselves once again in Josh's presence, and perhaps find ourselves changed in some way as a result, becoming a little like the one we love, and carrying something of Josh around us into the world. So today is probably for all of us one of those times of bright sadness where we might find joy, comfort, laughter, grief, anger, and other things all mixed up together, sometimes not knowing which one's going to come next. And whatever you feel, or even if you're in a place where you find it hard to feel anything, that's okay. There's something about Josh that didn't demand people be anything other than themselves, and just made others feel comfortable. And whether he's aware of it or not, that's a very Christ-like way to be. And today in this place, we'll be offering space and an opportunity for everyone to pause, to reflect, to pray if you wish. So whatever your faith, or whatever or whoever you put your trust in, you're welcome to take part in whatever you feel comfortable doing. And Liz and Chris wanted you to know that, and I do too. So if you need to step out for a breather, that's okay. There's space outside. And also through the doors at the back there, if you need the toilet. If you were able to run through the wall there, you'd reach the toilets, but prefer you to use the doors at the back and then round the corridor, so help yourself there to feel comfortable. And then later you're welcome to come for refreshments over in the church hall, which is behind me here. You'll just need to follow the crowd, and there's food for those who've ordered it and plenty of squash for everyone else. Oh, and please have your phones on silent if you haven't done that already. I'm just going to check mine. Unless you have a Harry Potter ringtone, in which case, turn it up, please. So let's pause before we continue and just acknowledge how we are, how we're feeling. Maybe you just want to name that in a few moments of silence. So some words from the Bible, first of all from Lamentations and then John's Gospel. And the words will be on the screen if you want to follow them. Lamentations 3, verse 19 to 23. I remember my affliction and my wandering, the bitterness and the gall. I well remember them, and my soul is downcast within me. Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Jesus said, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. You know the way to the place where I am going." Thomas said to him, "Lord, we don't know where you are going, so how can we know the way?" Jesus answered, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." And if you think back to your own childhood, however long ago that was, many of us had that place. Maybe it was the home of a family member or a friend, the place we just loved to be. I grew up in a town in Northern Ireland and had a friend whose mum, she was called Madeline, made me feel like that. I've got more memories of their house than I have of my own. I could just come unannounced, covered in mud, full of energy and laughter and noise, or covered in blood or tears, polite or annoying, clothed or unclothed, and that did happen. Unfortunately, my friend posted photos of the latter on Facebook a couple of years ago. Don't look for them, please. But it didn't matter. There was always a space at the table, enough food in the fridge, perhaps even a room to sleep. And I was welcomed into their home, their family. And at the end of a busy day playing on our street, I'd often just disappear off to their house without letting my mum and dad know where I was going. But Madeline had that covered too. And on so many occasions, she must have made that phone call to my parents to say, "It's okay. He's here. I've got him." When Josh didn't come back, when he died, Liz prayed, "Jesus, hold him." And in an instant had a reply, "I've got him. I've got him." You see, God is faithful. God doesn't break his promises even when we do. He's the faithful one even when we're not. And Liz heard Jesus making good on his promise. That promise that we've just read that he made to his friends when he used the picture of a home, a house that we can all identify with, can't we? But he's not trying to describe a house. It's not like Tahani's mansion in the good place. It's not floating on a cloud somewhere or in some distant parallel universe, but rather Jesus' promise is the one of life in the presence of God. It's that sense of home you only get when you're in the presence of the one who cares deeply for you and welcomes you as their own family. Jesus' promise is for a homecoming, a coming into the presence of God that everyone can experience now, that we can taste now in this life if we want to. And I know many here have done just that. So both Chris and Liz know that Josh is okay, that he's held by Jesus. And they're not the sort of people who make stuff up or live in dreamland. When we talked about it, they told me there have been too many experiences and prayers answered for this to be wish fulfillment or some sort of emotional anesthetic, because the pain isn't dulled. The sorrow of loss is still there. It doesn't make it all okay, but they know he is okay. And if you want to talk to them about it later or some other time, they said they'd be happy to describe how they know that and why they know that. That Josh is with Jesus Christ, the one who says, "I've got him. He's here. He's home." So I'm going to invite Chris and and others up now. And as we hear from them and other friends and family today, as they share their memories, we remember the Josh who still is, not was. Chris.
So we've got 3 tributes, and the ones you're about to hear are pretty much what was said at Josh's funeral, when only 10 people were allowed to attend. So it's a testimony to how much Josh was loved and how much he impacted other people's lives, that 2 years later, so many people are here in person and so many more joining us online, from all around the world, I understand. Thank you all for making the effort. It really means so much to us. Josh was a gentle giant. He always was. He was a large baby who ate well and always enjoyed his food. His brothers helped him to develop physically by flying him round the room above their heads, and later by teaching him to ride a bike by shoving him down a slope. Josh fell off. He was never a great sportsman. The fastest he ran on Year 6 sports day was the length of the field to tell the teacher he'd won the javelin competition. He was a jolly giant too, with a sense of humour, a quick, witty mind, and he was lots of fun. No creature on earth could be scared of him, except our dog Jack, who for some inexplicable reason slunk away under a chair whenever Josh was around. Jack's waiting for us in the hall. He is caged, don't worry. So the 4 main themes of Josh's life are his love for food, cooking and eating, love for film, making, watching and critiquing, love of music, singing in choirs, performing on stage and operating the sound desk at this church as a teenager, and his love of board games. Another thing he inherited from me. But the brilliant thing about all of these things is that he enjoyed doing them with others. He had a real skill of drawing people in, making them feel welcome and comfortable, whether it was cooking a meal for his housemates or recommending to his family and friends the best of the latest film releases, or encouraging the worship band at church, or getting people together to enjoy a new game. Though reluctant at the start, they would relax and love it by the end. Josh had a way of putting people at their ease. He was a vibrant character whose enthusiasm was infectious to those around him. Josh was warm, kind-hearted, gentle, thoughtful, caring and loving. And his bear hugs are legendary. After we'd moved to Radcliffe, when Liz turned up on the doorstep in Beeston saying she needed somewhere to slob, Josh, in his dressing gown, said, "You've come to the right place," and enveloped her in a great big hug. At uni, Josh was known as a clever bloke who had a passion for learning, sound and cinema. He was totally selfless, supporting and encouraging others. He would do anything for anyone. His colleagues described him as inspiring, friendly, and caring. He was a bright, intelligent man with a great skill for quizzes. His brilliant mind amazed his work colleagues. He had a phonographic memory, was great at picking up languages and accents. We were once commended as parents for his knowledge of the 10 Commandments, which Josh had picked up not from us, but from watching The Simpsons. Josh, you touched the hearts of all who knew you. You were a true gentleman. You brought a smile to everyone's face and put them at ease. You were a gentle giant, taken from us far too soon. We will miss your games, your food, your fun, your friendliness, your love of family and friends. We love you. We miss you beyond words. Thank you.
So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Ed, Josh's eldest brother. I'm about to read you the tribute that myself, my wife Amy, and younger brother Ollie wrote 2 years ago, next month. So when we thought about what we wanted to say about Josh, we decided we wanted to highlight some of our best memories and things we shared together. I still remember the day he was born, like it was yesterday, being pulled to one side at primary school at the age of 9 to be given the good news. Josh started his international travel experience early, at 9 weeks flying to Jamaica with all the family to meet his twin cousin, Stuart. We have such happy family memories of him as a young child, including Chris on his career break and Josh on the back of his bike. And then lovely family holidays in Ibiza, the Lake District, Australia and Somerset, amongst many others. As a toddler, how could we forget a 2-year-old putting in a VHS video on his own and constantly repeating quotes from films like Back to the Future? From memory, Great Scott was a particular favourite, and he used to call me and Noel slackers. So perhaps this is where his love of film started. Such was the age gap between us. I unfortunately spent little time with Josh between the ages of 9 and 16. So perhaps myself and Amy will always remember the day he strolled through immigration in Melbourne, aged 16, and we barely recognised the young man that he'd become. All of a sudden, amongst other things, he was an excellent chef who took great delight in prepping Christmas lunch and trying new dishes where he could. So I'll never forget him cooking us Christmas lunch on the barbecue in Radcliffe-on-Trent. An extremely intelligent and articulate young man, he often used long words that I regularly had to look up in the dictionary, and still do. So, and finally, an avid film buff. His depth of film knowledge blew me away, and I'm glad to have been able to see films with him in the past. In recent years, I've always enjoyed our regular catch-ups, hearing about his latest Six Nations rugby trip plans, board game nights, or dates with Charlotte, amongst other things. Personally, he had such a warm heart, and I always look forward to hearing about his latest adventures in life. He was a great little brother to me and Ollie, a son to Mum and Chris, an amazing uncle to Eleanor and Beth. I'll always treasure the precious photos we have of him, some of which you've seen this morning, teaching Eleanor a board game, having cuddles with Beth, or playing an important part in our wedding day. So rest easy, Josh. You'll forever be in our hearts and never forgotten. Lots of love, Ed, Amy, Ollie, Eleanor and Beth.
And Charlotte's asked for her thoughts and memories to be read out. So here are Charlotte's words. Josh and I started chatting in August. I was looking for a decent beard. He was looking for a nerdy girl in glasses. Josh was patient and supportive even in the beginning. Fast forward a month and it's date day. A lot of effort was put in on both sides. I wore makeup. He wore a shirt. Date number 1 went well. The beard and conversation were good enough to warrant a second date, and more. Guess it didn't take me long to see past the beard. I think what worked so well for Josh and I was that everything was go with the flow. No labels, no pressure, just enjoy it. There's 4 moments that bring a smile to my face and a tear to my eye when I think of Josh. Number 1, all the soppy stuff, the first kiss, the first time saying the L word. Number 2, the Christmas break, in particular the very beginning and the very end. Even in the first evening, I felt welcomed, relaxed, and comfortable enough to not have my car keys on me at all times. Christmas was the time that I truly fell in love with Josh. Number 3, a visit back home to Liz's birthday. From the moment the alarm went off in the morning, Josh was so excited to go back to the happy place. Just the smiles and the short break were enough to press the reset button. Number 4, the gift that kept on giving. Harry Potter Studios. The Friday night that I invaded Josh's house, he was having a little bit of a meltdown because of work. I turned up with a care package and talked Josh through it as he had got me through so much before. As soon as Josh got in my car and was greeted by the Harry Potter opening music, he had the biggest grin on his face. As we went to line up, I remember looking up at Josh and seeing his entire face light up. Before the tour, we made sure to grab some grub whilst sitting under the floating candles. I made sure that Josh tried something from everywhere, taking full advantage of, oh well, it's Christmas. His smiles and happiness are the things that I will always hold in my heart and in my thoughts. It was truly a perfect weekend. I'm so thankful for the joy that Josh has brought into my life, for always being the one to put a smile on my face, for showing me what love is, and for the memories that will last forever. I'm also thankful for his family, for welcoming me, supporting me, and putting up with me. My only regret is that we didn't have more time, and that we couldn't spend the rest of our lives together. I love you, Josh.
So here we are, we got another chance for life. It's what you want, I can see it in your eyes. You see so clear, it's coming into light. Go on, be wrong, 'cause tomorrow you'll be right. Don't sit around and talk it over, you're running out of time. Just face ahead, no going back now. Oh, you come so far, now see you're cutting all the ties. You're right, go on, keep running for your life. Made up your mind,
I'm going to invite Liz up now and some others just to share a few more memories and also to bring a few items up, things that remind them and remind us of Josh and who he was. And they're going to be putting things on this table at the front here. And if you're wondering what's on the table, Liz says this quilt was made of a load of old T-shirts, wasn't it, that Josh had. So if you get the chance to come and have a look at it before you go, then do. It's quite amazing. But Liz, why don't you come?
Thank you. Wow, what a lot of people. I'm holding a book here which I'm going to take round to the hall. Chris managed to get a few screenshots from Josh's Facebook page before it was deleted. So his picture's here, and I've stuck those screenshots towards the back. So there's loads of room at the front. So if you didn't get a chance to say anything today and you've got something that you want to say, then just scribble it in here. We'll pass it round while we're eating lunch. It doesn't matter if it gets lunch on it. I'm just filling in while Charlotte went for something. No, it's fine. Okay, he's here. So, we've heard that even before he was born, well, you've heard about since he was born, but obviously I knew him longer than that. So even before he was born, I felt Josh was a gentle soul compared to how his brothers had been. As it turned out, maybe it was just that he didn't have much room to move in there. He was over 2 pounds heavier than either of the others had been when he was born. So, even his first shoes are quite big for a little person. They've got teddies on them, girls, look. So I brought his first shoes. They're a bit bigger than most one-year-olds wear, but there they go. And then this other pair, which was, I'll lift up in a minute, were bought for his first date with Charlotte. Where's Dave? Did the shopping. That's it with him. And they're a reminder of his size. These ones happen to be a 14, but I think that's mostly because they're quite narrow. So they've got peace lilies in, because he's at peace now. We know he's in a better place. But always my gentle giant. And his shirt is here, Charlotte, from that date. It goes with the shoes very nicely. Okay, Jen. This is my sister. And her husband, Dave.
Thank you. I'm not used to holding a mic. Is it possible to have a stand? Thank you. You make a good stand. When Lizzie first told me she was pregnant with Josh, I came off the phone and said, I wish it was me. Only later did I discover that I too was pregnant. Josh and Stuart were born on the 8th and 9th of December, weighing 9 pounds 4.5 and 9 pounds 4 ounces. They were known by the family as the twin cousins. In spite of the distance, we managed to spend time together. Liz and family visited us in Jamaica, and I took Stuart to visit the UK. At 7 months of age, Josh and Stuart sat side by side in high chairs, eating chips at the Baltimore Diner in Nottingham. Age 7, at Grandma's 70th birthday meal, Josh and Stuart shared a steak dinner. There was no steak on the children's menu. More recently, I remember helping Josh with his shoes for Ed and Amy's wedding. Josh had the biggest size shoes available, but they were still too small. My nephew had feet very much like mine, very wide with short, fat toes, the only bit of Josh that was short. Josh changed into his Converse for the reception. Most of all, I remember that Josh gave the best, gentle, most comforting, most all-embracing hugs in the world.
And I remember Josh as big and hairy. And in the last few times that I saw him, incredibly happy. Big, hairy and happy and kind. He spent time talking with his uncle about our shared passion. It had to be films. And anybody who will have listened to Josh talk about his top 10 films will know that he was mostly wrong. Childhood was not the best film. Boyhood was not the best film ever made. It's dreadful. I remember Josh as a big, hairy, kind, happy, wonderful geek. And the geek will inherit the earth.
I'm Chris's sister, Kathy, and I've been asked to read tributes from our brother David, who is at the camera, should be watching, from Australia. Oh, up there. Oh, the clock. Hello. Hopefully, with his sons Jordan and Tyler watching as well, they're all in Australia. So first of all, I have a picture that I dug out last night of Josh, when he was tiny, wearing a little jumper that I actually knitted for him. I'm not a good knitter, and it was a real labour of love to make it for him. However, my enduring memory of Josh cannot be put onto a table, as it is of his huge, as mentioned before, all-encompassing hugs. Maybe as we hug one another today, we can recall those wonderful Josh hugs. So there's that. Stand them up. And our brother David, Josh's uncle down under, has asked for the following to be put on the table. It's a yoghurt pot. And it's also a canal map. He says, the yoghurt pot represents the first meeting of the first cousins, Jordan and Josh, in the UK. They shared the excitement of smearing yoghurt on themselves on a warm summer day, and he says it must have been cooling. The canal map represents the canal trip that the cousins shared in 2006, when Josh fell into a lock as he crossed the lock gates, only to be left standing as his feet hit the sill. In remembrance of Josh, the games master who helped me, that's my brother David, set up to play Ticket to Ride online, which he plays to this day, he says he's forever thankful and proud to have Josh as his first nephew. So this is from David. Thank you, Chris.
Jordan, Josh's first cousin down under, asked us to place this lovely photo of my favourite actor, thank you Jordan, of David Tennant playing Doctor Who, and he says he has very fond memories of discussing and watching Doctor Who with Josh. He writes, Josh was a beautiful human. Thank you, Jordan. And Tyler, Jordan's brother, also down under, has sent this lovely photo of a bacon butty. Yum. He says, my favourite memory of Josh was many years ago while we were travelling through the canals and locks. Same memory as David. One morning, after a particularly delicious bacon butty, Josh proceeded to fall into the lock while we were changing the water level. Now, he may not have been laughing and smiling at the time, but everyone else certainly was. Tyler says, Josh was a bringer of joy and a wonderful person. Rest in peace, Josh. Thank you, Tyler. I don't know who's next. Thank you.
My godson, Josh, the son of my dear friends, Liz and Chris. I first met Chris writing speeches together in the sixth form debating society. And I met Liz around the same time. She was a friend and a colleague of my mum's at the time, 1982. Both friendships were special and lasted those ups and downs years of my early 20s. And looking back, it was almost as though they were waiting till the time was right when they would meet each other, which fast forward, they did. December 1990, they got together. There was no stopping them. 10 weeks later, they were engaged. 10 months later, they were married. Just over 2 years later, Josh arrived. The family, Liz, Chris, Ed and Ollie, and now Josh was complete. Josh, a mop of blonde hair, gorgeous grin, sparkly eyes, a bundle of fun for his big brothers, a darling for them all. He was forever easygoing, happy, interesting, lots of fun. He always loved stories. Stories quickly turned into videos. Postman Pat, Rosie and Jim, Fireman Sam, Tom's the Tank, Doctor Who, Star Wars, and Harry and all the rest. He loved them all. It was always his thing. A cinema trip with his mum. He loved to escape. His passion was infectious, and we always wanted to know what his favourite film was of the time. We texted if we were about to watch a film. We wanted to know what he thought. So when I think about Josh, it's the authentic, kind, and genuine, open-natured soul that he was, and that fills me with love and light. I'm just gesturing my lights to put on the table. Would you like to help me?
Do you want to help me? No.
No? Would you like to help me? Don't want to cause a fire. I'm not sure who's next. Who's next? Jill? 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 Just come.
Thank you very much. That was me making a grand entrance in my heels, because you can't do it quietly on this floor. These are just lovely, aren't they? So my name is Jill, and I knew Josh at the very, very beginning. I am delighted to say that I retired 3 years ago, but before that, I worked for 40 years in the NHS as a midwife. And when I worked as a midwife, every case we had, every lady we looked after, was always a pleasure and a privilege, but never more so than when I looked after a friend in labour, in pregnancy and in labour, and got to deliver their baby and to be there at the first time. And the great thing was that you would then see those children grow up. And I would call them mine. He's one of mine, I would say, and Josh was one of mine. Now, I've no idea what the weather was like on the day he was born outside. It was December, probably cold, possibly snowy. I can't remember. But on that labour suite, on that day, it was glorious. It was a glorious, glorious day, and a miraculous day, and a very, very special day to be part of. Thank you for allowing me to be part of that lovely day. The gift I'd like to put on the table is this. If you've ever had one of those used on you, then you will have had a baby. If you haven't, but you've seen Call the Midwife, this is called a Pinard stethoscope, and we use it to listen to the baby's heartbeat through the mother's tummy. So when I thought about what I could put on the table, I just thought, I heard Josh's heartbeat before he was even born. What a privilege, what a joy, what a pleasure, what something that is to treasure, how wonderful. So I heard Josh's heartbeat, and it reminds me, I'm a Christian, so I can't help telling you this, so sorry about that, but that there is a psalm, it's 139, which is all about how God knows us and loves us. And a couple of the verses in that say, you created my inmost being, you knit me together in my mother's womb, and you saw my unformed body. And I was part of hearing that wonderful miracle. So that's one of the wonderful things for a mother and a father who are expecting. But also another wonderful thing is when that baby is born, and I do remember he was a good-sized baby. That's what we say in the trade, good-sized baby. And I had the pleasure and the joy of being able to hand him to Liz and to Chris into their welcoming, loving arms. And that takes me back to another verse of the Bible, which is in Deuteronomy, so it's way ahead of Psalms, way before that. And it's all about God loving us eternally, but the words are, the eternal God is your refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms. And I am just reminded by putting this little Pinard stethoscope on the table that God is eternal, his love is eternal, his father heart beats for all of us. It beat for Josh before he was born, after he was born, and it beats now. Thank you. I think it's Faye now.
Hello everyone, I'm Faye, and AJ and I had the pleasure of going on numerous holidays with the Youngman Bellman contingency over the years. I think we went about 9 altogether. We've holidayed under many conditions. We've holidayed under canvas, mainly extremely wet canvas. We've gone in caravans. Well, Josh did. He seemed to relegate his parents to a tent outside, but we have been in caravans. We've been in conference centres with church families. We've been in holiday homes in the UK, and we've been in villas in France. All of that means I've got some fantastic memories of Josh and a few stories to tell you. The very first one was at Grafton Water. And if I had brought something which I wasn't organised enough to bring, it would have been a glass of water, because so many of our holidays involved water. The first night we were meant to be there was torrential rain, and we didn't come because we're wusses. And when we arrived, poor Ollie and Eddie were floating away in a tent. The ducks were in the puddles because they were so deep, and Josh was in an outdoor, unheated swimming pool, swimming, and he spent the entire weekend doing that, much to our surprise because it was freezing. We then went on another holiday. It was slightly more upmarket. It had an indoor pool, and it was heated. On the first day, Josh rushed in and dive-bombed into the water, which gave my daughter, who was only 5 at the time, the idea that she could do this as well. It was unfortunate, but once you can swim, and 2, she didn't have any armbands on. She promptly sank like a stone. Thanks, Josh. There was one amazing Christmas where we didn't see him. We were on holiday with Evan, his friend, and Rosie and Holly, and we'd gone even more upmarket because we had a cottage each, which had an indoor swimming pool and a jacuzzi, do you remember? And we just didn't see them because they spent the whole time in there. But they did smell of chlorine quite a lot. However, my favourite story about Josh wasn't really about water at all. We were in France going for a walk. We set up, do you remember? We set off quite late in the afternoon along a really beautiful hilly hillside. And for some reason, Josh decided that he was going to be in charge. Now, for anybody not as old as me, this was the day before GPS, okay? No smartphones, no Google Maps. But Josh was determined that he knew a gentle, short, circular route. Several hours later, we still had not found the cars. The light was genuinely fading. And at the time, I was a keen runner, and I had started to get ready to try and run somewhere to find a rescue party. At the time, my husband Andrew had on him something that I didn't understand, which was a military GPS. And I had no idea, in those days we had no idea what that did, but miraculously it took us back to our cars. So he may not be a great navigator, he was a great swimmer, and we have loads of happy memories of holidays. And I didn't bother to go through all the games we have played along the ways, but safe to say many holidays involves many, many board games, and we will never play a board game without thinking of Josh.
Thank you, everybody. We're going to be hearing a few more memories in a couple of minutes, but before that, if you haven't twigged, Josh was a bit of a Potter fan. And so we're going to listen to some music from Harry Potter called Hedwig's Theme. And during that couple of minutes, if you've got anything else that you'd like to bring up, if you brought something with you, then that's the chance to come up and just put it here on the table. So I think a few family members will come up. Is there anything else that you want to bring? You don't have to say anything, but just to bring up, then do so as we listen to this piece of music. Richard, I think you'd... No? Okay. All right. Chris, over to you.
My name's Chris, and I first knew Chris and Lizzie as Chris was a courting right at the beginning, the first or second Sunday, coming over from a certain bank in Stafford, the West Midlands, across the border to the East Midlands, and with a wonderful Ollie and Ed scampering around and sitting on the first Sunday till about 4:30, as you did in the 80s and 90s, kind of pirouetting on bits of chairs and just having a great yarn together. Josh was born and grew up with so many people in this room, so many families, and from there begins the regaling of many tales. So I want to talk about Josh's voice, and my gift is Les Mis, which is always here. And Josh's voice unexpectedly invaded my Facebook last week. I was invaded with elation, an inward rush, very palpable. Josh's voice, so melodious, excitable, a raconteur, congenial. I love to hear it, his unique perspectives on so many things. The younger Josh's voice was the high-pitched toddler, the chatty, gamesy teen, famous singer of Pirates at Dagfa, and then baritone bass in Nottingham Youth Voices. A maturer Josh was dead clever, screenwriting and shooting, recording, sound desking, producing, directing, lip-syncing, narrating. Yet Josh, in our family, as we grew up together, the name that sticks is the regaler of tales. Family togetherness in Ireland Avenue around hearty meals, fun in Peak District camping holidays, and magnificent Matlock Bath Christmas fair around frolics and games galore. Josh's voice, a glorious mosaic, voicing his presence, his essence, holding us together in fellowship with his warm, gentle look and his piercing eye that saw a new part of me. Josh brought togetherness. Let's voice the script and the song he implanted in us and celebrate them together in our lives. So, Les Mis and a cloudless sky. Thank you.
Richard, thank you.
Hello, everybody. I have the confession to make that I am the creator of the board game Gene. Almost single-handedly, I have to say. I introduced Chris and his brother and sister to board games. Little did I know how that gene would grow over the years, until, of course, in Josh, we have someone who has had, I don't know where it is now, but probably in Chris's careful protection, the greatest, biggest collection of board games that I have ever come across. Now, forgive me if I'm not quite what you might expect. I wasn't sure that I would actually be able to come to this memorial service, let alone speak. because I feared that I might be overcome, and indeed I nearly am. However, having heard what you have all had to say about Josh, there is very little that I can add to it. But I did want to recollect that from time to time, well, year to year actually, on November the 5th, 3 boys and I, 4 boys, because Chris was there as well, and I had the pleasure, I think it was, of worrying Lizzie beyond compare. We built bonfires which were really fine creations, weren't they? Weren't they, chaps? They were good. The problem was that they were built normally fairly close to the garden shed. And Lizzie would be looking out of the window, preparing all the goodies that she did prepare for these wonderful November the 5th occasions. And I could see her almost shaking with fear that the garden shed would join the rest of the bonfire. We were very careful. We had proper hose pipes, didn't we, to make sure that if anything happened, we could put it out. Luckily, nothing ever did. But I can remember Ed and Ollie and Josh all thoroughly enjoying bonfire night. And had I thought ahead, I would have brought a rocket. And I would have placed the rocket on the table. Anyway, board games, fireworks, fire were my contributions. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I'd just like to thank Chris and Liz for organising this, because it's been so nice to see how many people that Josh has touched over his life. And there's people here that I haven't seen for nearly 10 years, and Welsh lot who I haven't seen for a few years. It's just really nice. But anyway, my name's David, or Rugby Dave as I've now been christened. And we went to college at Bilborough College, and I'll shout out Jono and Sam, Owen, Sarah, Shannon, and Tom on the live feed who got up bright and early in Canada. I think it's about 7 now. While we were at college, we were supposed to be studying, but we spent most of our time playing card games, playing Sporkle, chatting about films, and generally just wasting time. And it was just a beautiful time to spend all our hours with him. Some of our favourite highlights of our time with Josh were the time that Tom betters that Jono and Josh couldn't sing the entire first act of Hamilton together. They could. Another time was the time we invaded Ed's house so we could go and watch the new Batman film on the largest IMAX screen at early in the morning. and it's just his hospitability was just marvelous. It goes across the whole family as well. But I know Sam would crucify me if I didn't mention the bear hugs again. They were definitely a favourite. But personally, the best times I had with Josh was our times going on our rugby trips together. We did it either as a pair or in groups. Some of the highlights were seeing England win a Grand Slam in Paris, seeing Hellwind sing at the Principality Stadium. But my favourite trip was the last one we did together to Paris. Funny enough, where that photo came from. I was given strict instructions on how to take the photo and how to edit the photo and how to post the photo. But after the match, which unfortunately we lost, we went to a local brasserie to commiserate ourselves. And this is my favourite anecdote of Josh. An older gentleman came up to us and said, "Oh, you like rugby?" And we said yes. And he said, "Do you like brandy?" "Yeah, sure." So he bought Josh a large glass of brandy, completely ignored me, and wrote his name, email address, and phone number on a piece of paper and gave it to him. Josh, being Josh, was too polite to tell him to go away. He further went on to say that he was the vice president of the big rugby club Stade Francais, and when we got back to the hotel, we did some research, and he was not the vice president of Stade Francais. All right, thank you very much. I believe it's Robin up next.
Isaac, yeah. We'll have Isaac and then, Robin. Sorry? Thanks. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Isaac, and I'm Chris and Liz's godson, and Josh, a lifelong friend. And in this next bit of time, I just want to talk about one of my particular favourite memories of Josh from the late noughties, and the feeling that Josh left with me, which I will always miss, and I think you will all share in. So, an enduring memory I have of Josh is playing the quiz video game Buzz, a family favourite. As young teenagers, me, Josh, my brother and sister would be huddled round the living room floor in their house on Ireland Avenue, with big red buzzers in front of us. Josh would inevitably choose to play the character of Albert Einstein, and once this had happened, German accent quickly followed, and I have to say there was a lot of laughter, and I loved the game partly just because of that. Also inevitable, 9 times out of 10, Josh would win the game, and he would then laugh at us as the game show host Buzz would start to insult me and my siblings on our failure to win. It was all very funny. But despite then being a very sore loser and highly competitive, I didn't mind losing to Josh at all. I simply revelled in the time I got to spend with him and the jolliness he brought to my life. And that's because Josh, as people have already said, had this beautiful, almost home-like quality which we all knew and loved. Thinking back, it's what I miss most now. Over the years that I've known Josh, no matter how long we were apart, seeing him again would feel, in a way, like coming home. I'd feel happy, safe, like we'd never been apart and no time had passed at all. There would then always be the much anticipated big, gentle bear hug, as he also 9 times out of 10 swept me off my feet. And that's a feeling I will always miss, and is why I love Josh so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Robin. And David, why don't you come up as well, and then you'll be ready afterwards. Robin, yeah. Okay.
Just before I start, I put Josh's character sheet that he played in D&D. I just want, if you could just roll on there, just 7, never mind. Would have been great if it was a 20. Right. Hello everyone, my name is Robin, and I was one of Josh's best friends from university. This speech is from all of us who knew him from his time then, his passion for film, his talent for cooking, and his quirks of tabletop gaming. We met Josh at the University of Newport, where he attended to study his passion, film and video. It all started when he moved into Opal student accommodation in flat A12 in room B. He shared his flat with Herwin, Dickon, Kaylee and Ken, and lifelong friendship took off from there. Josh prospered and grew in his time at university, always succeeding in his studies and getting brilliant grades in his essays, even when he usually started them the night before they were due. Josh was passionate about his work. For our graduation film, Confessions of a Telepath, to raise funds to meet our budget, Josh offered to shave his head. We were there in his flat in a cold winter's evening, trying to cut his hair with meat scissors. Something wasn't working, so we switched to the electric razor. And I believe there is still photographic evidence of the result online. He was a passionate director for our grad film, so much so, it was almost annoying. But his work emulated that of his favourite film director, Christopher Nolan, and it's still something that will last forever. As well as being very studious, there were times when we were not so studious at uni. Many drinks had been had in our time together, We particularly remember times when Josh was singing at the top of his lungs in his bathroom, Les Mis. We remember every time he had a few drinks, his French just got a little bit better. And you remember braiding his long hair and Josh pretending not to enjoy it, but really he loved it, waving his locks because you're worth it, Josh. And Josh loved maths. Weird to hear from someone who took film and video, but his kindness extended to teaching Ken maths so he could pass his GCSE and always counting up scores in board games. Even outside of university, his love for film flourished and was apparent in how he spent his time. He would often host whole-day cinema trips when he would go and watch about 3 or 4 films in the cinema in one day, fetching about 2 meal deals beforehand from Tesco to get through the day. Josh curated lists of the movies he saw that year, rating them in one of 3 ways: best movie ever, just a movie, and worst movie ever. And I always found it such an odd way to rate movies, but it's just what Josh did. Josh's favourite fantasy movies and books were Harry Potter. He was among one of the greatest minds in Cardiff and almost single-handedly led 3 pub quizzes wins in Potter trivia. A Triwizard champion, you could say. But do you know which house, Hogwarts house that he belonged to? He had many qualities that would fit him in each house: brave, smart, loyal, and Slytherin. Josh's favourite genre of music were movie soundtracks, and if you asked him what a song was playing from, he would either think of it instantly, or he would sit, close his eyes, fold his arms with a finger over his face, pretend to conduct as he thought, and procure the right answer. His passion for cooking and films came together for Oscar night, and every year he would host us for the Oscars and he would cook the snacks from the movies nominated that year. Josh enjoyed challenging himself, and his chefing skills shone through. Collectively, we've eaten over 100 of Josh's Christmas dinners and hundreds more of his meals throughout the year. And to this day, he still hasn't washed anything up. Josh was famously an incredible fan of tabletop gaming, and often each week, or multiple times a week, we'd get together and play our latest board games and the expansions. Josh had so much passion for board games, and it overflowed so much he wanted to share it and teach others how to play the games. For the last few years, Josh worked at RulesCon, a community gathering in Cardiff where people were brought together, perhaps introducing their friends and family to the hobby or meeting new people. And he worked there once a year over the weekend, teaching others how to play any game. And to them, he was known as their Dixit friend, not only because he brought every new expansion that came into that shop, but because they loved seeing him and chatting all about the new and upcoming releases. He even bought many expansions to his games, even just so he could play the colour black. We would like to share some little tidbits as well from our gaming sessions together that have stuck with us. For example, in Seven Wonders, once everyone had made their turn, he would insist on checking that everyone had done it correctly, pushing up his glasses and sighing when we'd done something wrong. Sorry, Josh. During our games of Cosmic Encounter, Josh would always create a voice for each alien that he played and continue to use said voice for the entirety of the game. There are over 197 aliens in that game, and each game takes about an hour, so we've heard plenty. And in Quacks and Quedlinburg, we'd always caught him peeking into the bag when he was not supposed to and cheating. And Josh would have liked me to tell you that Monopoly was his favourite game. He lied every time. We were lucky enough to celebrate Chris's birthday in Bridgend a few months ago by playing some board games with him and Liz. And we all agreed that it was like he was in the room again, and he inherited many of the quirks and traits from all of us, especially from his dad, who was so competitive. So we gather here 2 years after Josh's passing, and we'd like to reflect on the times that we've missed. We've missed finishing his Dungeons & Dragons campaign and his characters that he played. We missed getting to hear him destroy his clutch driving up the Welsh hills for some hikes. We missed getting to watch him struggle when moving our friends move house. We missed making him a pint of squash and watching him finish it before it even hit the table. All the board game purchases he would have made and not been able to play for months. We missed those summer barbecues that he would have cooked. We missed those bear hugs when you've not seen him in a while. And we'll miss the way he tried to roar like Chewbacca from Star Wars. We missed and will miss seeing Josh at our weddings to celebrate with us, and we're going to miss the times Tilly got to hug her Uncle Josh. But we'll tell her about him and how much he meant to each of us. We'll miss our friend, our gentle giant, Josh.
Hello, hello. Oh, there we go. Hello, how's it going? I didn't think it was appropriate to let the Welsh contingent be spoken to by someone in an England shirt, so I thought I'd come up and say hello. My name's David. I was Josh's housemate, my good friend, and I'm a musician, and Liz has asked me to perform this song. This is a song that I wrote afterwards, and it's called Hey Dude. Nothing to do with the Beatles. It's, as you might have heard, I don't know if anyone's mentioned, Josh quite liked board games, and we used to play board games together a lot, and he would get annoyed at us if we were to kind of bend the rules slightly, just for the purpose of enjoyment. And the more annoyed he would get, you could gauge where he was at. And if he starts calling you dude, that's when we're like, okay, we'll stop, sorry Josh. So we'd always, push up his glasses and, hey dude, don't do that. That was his nice way of saying, stop. So this is called Hey Dude. Was that a dice? What was it? And I feel a little heavy behind my eyes. These flashbacks are hitting me a little harder than I would like. But hey dude, this one's for you. And move your night to H3. And when that door opens, well, it's always you I expect to see. And hey dude, this one's for you. And you were so lucky when you found love, another someone to bear a hug. And you were so lucky and you found love. I'm sure gonna miss the bear hugs. But hey dude, this one's for you. Hey dude, this one's for you. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. Well, we're going to move from one beautiful song to another now, to the Psalms, to some ancient songs. And like all poets and songwriters, the psalm writers often try to tell us something, try to convey something about a reality that we might not otherwise see. And we're going to listen to Psalm 23 in a minute. But in Psalm 22, which comes just before it, the writer's been just lamenting the fact that everything's gone wrong. He's surrounded by enemies, swords, dogs, lions, all these symbols of pain, defeat, and death. And he can't see God or any kind of meaning or hope in it at all. And then comes Psalm 23. And it goes like this. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Some of us might recognize those familiar lines about still waters and refreshment. But there's that weird bit, isn't there? That kind of slightly trippy bit when one moment we're in the shadow, the valley, the shadow of death, but then there's this picture of a table being prepared by God in the presence of his enemies, prepared by God in the presence of death. And to us, that picture of a table is a bit odd, isn't it? But to those who lived at the time, they'd have been clear that this was a royal table, a banqueting table. And the feast being set, the table being set, signified a decisive shift. Something had happened, something had changed. As the author moves from talking about the shadow of death, a shadow over our lives, to a new reality where death is no longer at the centre, but watching on powerless as the king sets the table, welcoming and celebrating. And as I was thinking about this, naturally my mind turned to the 1999 Five Nations rugby tournament. Wales versus England. And it was at Wembley. Wales were playing at home because they didn't have a stadium at the time. Josh was 5, I think, so probably still a year or two away from being big enough to go and have a beer at the rugby match. There's 3 minutes to go, and Wales were 31-25 down. The England manager had already told people to tie the ribbons onto the trophy. But then Wales had a line out. Chris Wyatt caught the ball and dropped it into the hands of the scrum half, Rob Howley. Standing at first receiver wasn't the normal fly half, Jenkins, but the number 8, Scott Quinnell, a huge back row forward. England's defence lined up to take him out, but were distracted by the flanker, Colin Jarvis, who ran a decoy line. Quinnell got the ball, juggled it, almost dropped it, but then passed it to Scott Gibbs, still 30 metres from the try line. Gibbs jinked to the right before straightening up and going straight through Tim Rodber's challenge, skipping over Neil Back's ankle tap and evading Matt Dawson's desperate lunge. He was by now well inside England's 22, legs pumping. He swerved outside the England fullback Matt Perry and with an outrageous swing of the hips veered right, leaving the last line of the defence, Steve Hanley, spinning in his wake and dived over to score. The crowd lost it. Jenkins converted. Wales won the game. And England, the old enemy, could only look on in shock at what had just happened as the Welsh celebrated their win. It was a game-changing moment. I remember watching it on the telly and I stood up and applauded that try. And it's considered by many to be the greatest try in the tournament's history. Watch it on YouTube if you've never seen it. It's amazing. And remembering moments like that maybe gives us a small taste of what those early Christians might have felt as they read this psalm to each other and remembered not just a game-changing moment, but a moment in history when all creation, when reality itself was changed forever, when what looked like certain defeat turned to victory in the death and resurrection of God's Son, Jesus. The moment where God overcame and changed death forever. No longer does death have power over us. No longer do we need to walk fearfully in its shadow. But instead, we're invited to spend our lives at God's table in his faithful presence and care, and to sit at the place he's made ready for us. And death can only stand and watch, shocked, stunned, at what our faithful God has done for Josh, for us, for everything. I'm going to invite Charlotte up now to play for us and to lead us in song. The world will be on the... Yeah, different Charlotte, don't panic. That was close. To lead us in song, and the words will be on the screen, so please feel free to join in if you want to, if you know this song or you just want to join in as we worship. And just invite you to stand if you're able to.
Let's sing Faithful One together. For my god brother Josh. Faithful one, so unchanging, ageless one, you're my rock of peace, Lord of all, I depend on you. I call out to you again and again. I call out to you again and again. You are my rock in times of trouble. You lift me up when I fall down. All through the storm, your love is the anchor. My hope is in you alone. Faithful one, so unchanging, ageless one, you're my rock of peace, Lord of all, I depend on you. I call out to you again and again. I call out to you again and again. You are my rock in times of trouble. You lift me up when I fall down. All through the storm, your love is the anchor. Your love is the anchor. My hope is in you alone.
Please take a seat. Just a couple of minutes now, just an opportunity to express what's on our hearts, to pray if you like. I'll be addressing our thoughts and prayers to God. But if you're not sure you can pray, rest assured that he'll listen to you, even if you don't know him. But whatever or whoever it is that you trust in, please feel free to use these words and ideas as your own spirituality leads you to pray, to reflect, or to meditate. And at the end I'll say amen, and that just means I agree. So if you want to join in with that, please do. God, life is so strange just now. Sometimes I don't know what to feel or do. Maybe I'm not even sure you're there. But as we remember Josh, and as memories of him keep coming back to us, comfort me with your presence. Give me strength and courage to face this day and the days ahead. Give me the strength to talk of hope and the courage to show love. Amen. For Chris and Liz, Ed and Ollie and all their family and friends, would you give them the comfort of love, that they may face each new day with hope and the certainty that nothing can destroy the good that has been given. We thank you for your victory over death and for the assurance you've given that you've got Josh. Give them grace to let go into new life. May their memories be joyful, their days enriched with friendship, and their lives surrounded by love. Amen. And we are thankful for Josh, for his presence in our lives. And in a moment of silence, let's hold our own memories of Josh in our minds. Maybe name the things in the quiet that we love most about him, that we're thankful for, the things that make us laugh, the things that we admire and would like to have more of in our own character. Maybe something we've heard today. And now everyone's invited to join in the words of what we often call the Lord's Prayer, and those words will be on the screen. So we say together, Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen.
The Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. He makes me lie in pastures green. He leads me by the still, still waters. His goodness restores my soul, and I will trust in you. And I will trust in you Your goodness will lead me home. He guides my ways in righteousness, and He anoints my head with oil, and my cup it overflows with joy. I feast on His pure delights, and I will trust in You alone, and I will trust in You alone. For Your endless mercy follows me, Your goodness will lead me home. And though I walk the darkest path, I will not fear the evil one, for You are with me, and Your rod and staff are the comfort I need to know. And I will trust in You alone. I will trust in You alone. For Your endless mercy follows me, Your goodness will lead me home. Your goodness will lead me home. Your goodness will lead me home.
Please do take a seat. In a moment before we leave, we're going to listen to a song that Charlotte wrote and recorded. And after that, you're welcome to go as you wish, or to sit as some more pictures from Josh's life come up on the screen, or to come and look at this amazing table. But before we do that, let me pray to God our Father, who always welcomes us home, to Jesus, His Son, who has made a way home, to God the Spirit, who fills us with His power and leads us and guides us home. We give You thanks once again for Josh, for his life with us and his life now in You. Amen. May this same God give you, all of us, His comfort and His peace, His light and His joy in this world and the next, and the blessing of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit be among us and remain with us always. Amen.
Here in the present, gently just take your time, feel the emotions, exhale that nervous mind. You are beloved, yes, you are safe and sound. You've been so heavy, shaken and stirred around. It's been a year of hard, oh my friend. Lay down your heavy load, oh lay Here in the present, gently just take your time, feel the emotions, exhale that nervous mind. You are beloved, yes, you are safe and sound. You've been so heavy, shaken and stirred around. It's been a year of hard, oh my friend. Lay down your heavy load. Oh, lay down your heavy load. Lay it down. Lay it down and savor this moment here in your company, here in connection. Now as you smile with me, we are renewing, healing and listening. Let's take a second to be here and be free. It's been a year of hard, oh my friend, oh my friend. Lay down your heavy load. Oh, lay down your heavy load. Lay it down. Lay it down and here in the present, gently just take your time, feel the emotions, exhale that nervous mind. You are beloved, yes, you are safe and sound. You've been so heavy, shaken and stirred around. It's been a year of hard, oh my friend. Lay down